Hello again. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. This is Hello Again, episode 4. This one is going to be a little bit more focused. After reviewing the other Hello Again episodes, I realized that it's kind of like a series of ramblings. I mean, I do want it to be something that exists outside of just talking about my main subject, like movies and TV shows and like that. But it is probably best that I try to keep things focused. So, that being said, I do have a particular subject in mind for this episode, and that is my Christmas tree, or Christmas trees in general. I What really kind of brought this sort of up to the forefront of this particular episode is that I put up the tree. I put up my tree about the second week this month, but I couldn't figure out what to do with it. So, how did and it's one of those things it doesn't seem it's not difficult, right? I mean, you have garland, you have ornaments, you have the tree or the star like that. I mean, you do it, you put it all together, right? But for some reason, so this is gonna be this is gonna be my third year in my new place, and the first year I didn't have any ornaments. I got the tree, which was actually kind of lucky because I bought it kind of close to the week of about a week out from December 25th. So I was lucky to kind of get it's not the biggest that I've ever had. It's about 6 foot. It's about 6 foot. I've had trees that growing up, you know, that are just above 12 inches that you put on a countertop, or when I say anywhere in between, I think the biggest tree that we had when I was growing up, it was a 7 foot, and I think it was actually kind of it was given to my parents as a gift from my grandparents. Several months after they were first married. It wasn't you couldn't technically call it a wedding gift because it wasn't. It was, but their first year of marriage. My grandparents gave them this one tree that they used for years and years. But anywhere from a tree that you can put on a countertop, just put a little garland and just a little toy topper on, and all the way up to 7 foot. I know that's other folks have trees that are a bit more grandiose. I don't know. I think even if I had the space, I don't know if I would ever get something that's over 7 feet. And I know that people that have those trees 8 foot, 9 foot. I think my brother has something around there. It's a 9 or a 10 foot sort of thing. It's mostly, I don't know, with a Christmas tree, for those who put up Christmas trees and choose to decorate them and that. I mean, I figure the most important aspect of the Christmas tree is the setup. Is a setup, dressing it up and that, because it's supposed to be a kind of holiday themed centerpiece. I mean, it's not. Well, some people, they might actually have it in, depending on where your living room is or your living space is. It might be kind of in that center area. Mine kind of is. It's off to kind of the side of my living room, but it has its own space. Whereas I was saying, depending on where you live, are you your apartment or your house or things like that, you can choose and you can requisition essentially that space to act as oh, okay, this is going to be the thing that catches everyone's eye. But everybody had for the most part, most people that have Christmas trees, the main thing about them isn't just putting it up and just kind of throwing anything on it. You kind of have to go about things a certain way. So when I first got my tree, it was There, okay, there were ornaments, but there were none of them that like I wanted. The only ornaments that were like they didn't have like the big like you have like the plastic buckets and they have like all of those like shatterproof ornaments. Those are sold out already. Because I guess because the place that I bought at, they I don't know. I think they were putting back everything into the warehouse or something. And I know this sounds like crazy, and some of y'all are just like, I don't think he's telling the truth on this. But this it was crazy, because the only ornaments that they had, they were like the ornaments that are very very specific, and they all cost like $8 for like one. Like oh, this is from this is like from Harry Potter, or this is from like the Wizard of Oz, or something like that. I mean, you guys have seen them. And the market for them is, I mean, like, I get it, but like, when I was first setting up, I mean, like, let's say what we'll call operating expenses, made to where I couldn't just splurge like a bunch, like on very few ornaments. It just wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. I was able to get some garland, some snowy garland, and what I did was, the first time, I got these gift ribbons, the ones that they have the little like sticker like on the bottom. But I didn't take the paper off. But those were my ornaments. I am not a DIY person when it comes to crafts and different things like that. I'm not a DIY person, but something like. And the very first tree that I set up, it wasn't all that glamorous, But it was something, there was just something about it that sort of like, it gives this sort of like air of completion of some kind. And that year, I actually went all out. I got like the pine garland. Well, I got it. It was given to me. Like, like it's, cause I have it like secondhand. So it's just, something that I could like use, and I put it like the pine garland on like doorways, and one of my pepper bushes, that bird eye chilies, the chili piquin I've mentioned in previous like hello again like videos. I snipped it off, and I had that pepper because it's green, and it's just like the red berries. If you didn't know any better, it's like, hey, they might look like mistletoe berries. So I put that in one of my main like archways, and it like instead of mistletoe, and I was like, it's Texas, why not? Like, yeah, peppers, why not? But anyways, that first like year, it was kind of slapdash. It was a bit rough and ready, but it looked okay for like what it was, And for what it was just sort of like me putting my stamp on the very first like year that I was getting set up, in my new place. The second year, it went much better, because I got out early, like in November, and I did get one of like the bigger, like I said, like one of the bigger like plastic bucket sets of shatterproof ornaments. Specifically, I got blue and silver. Blue and silver. And I had snowy garland. And I still use some of the bows, because I used like blue and white and like that. And so like the theme in my second year was kind of like a snowy sort of like tree. And for what it was, I think it looked really good. I think that it really did have a good sort of like wintry sort of like feel to it. But this year I couldn't figure out like what, like initially I was like, well, why don't we just do like why don't I just do like what I did last year, because I looked really nice, and just like there's no like rule, except the rule that I made is like I want to do something just a little bit different, and so like this year I put up the tree, but it was just a tree for like really longer than it should have been. Um, at first, I had this idea, like we'll do something very stark. The tree is green, so I'll put like red ornaments like on it. No ribbon this year. No bows, no ribbons or anything like that. Even though I think it, like as an idea, as far as like cost effective, sort of like like go to instead of like more expensive like ornaments necessarily. I like the bows. I like the ribbons, but like I said, I want to do something a little bit more just on its own, just something that I hadn't like done before. So I put the red on there. I put the red, and there's like bulbs. I put the red ornaments on the tree, and it looked nice, you know. And I started to just sort of like, place them like all around, just sort of like as a kind of ornament foundation, if you will. But it still didn't look like I wasn't sold on it, you know. And then I thought to myself, okay, well, it probably just doesn't look right because I don't have the lights on like yet. Like, admittedly, this was a rough draft because I mean you have to put the lights on first because you can't overlap, like ornaments then lights. I'm sure, I'm sure there's someone out there who's probably like done that and they've done it like successfully. If so, kudos. But for the way that I did this, like no, yeah, like okay, just to see this like firsthand, just to see like where the ornaments can be placed and how they can like flesh out the body of the tree and like that. It's just like okay, like yeah, I definitely want red worked in here as kind of like the major sort of like color, like as the major color, or at least one of them. But I had to take them off, and then just I let it like sit. Work kind of like gets to like everything outside of your recreation time. It just gets to you, and it takes priority. And then you have to deflate or whatever it is that you do to kind of like keep yourself sane during the work week. And it just kind of stood there. Oh, by the way, for anyone who's like curious, elderberry tea. I've not had elderberry tea. It just kind of like started on it like 2 weeks ago. It's a nice kind of light citrus flavor. I'm really, I wasn't expecting to like it, but I just kind of was like, you know what? I was at the section of my grocery where they have like the teas, and I was like, I've never tried elderberry. I don't know. And so like, yeah, just try it out. It's just very light, but like nice citrus sort of like flavor to it. I recommend it. But the tree just kind of like stood there. And then I had to think with like, okay, the lights, because you have to put those like first, because like I was saying, because the overlap just doesn't like work. And I was strongly considering, like if I was to get like double garlands, when I say like I mean like light garlands, like, because one of the like it's kind of like a primordial sort of like idea for sort of like Christmas is just like the light scheme in and of itself. And you see this whenever you drive around neighborhoods or whenever you drive to like public displays of things like that. They're not really so much focused on ornamentation. It's just lights, because you have the wire reindeer, or you have just like the trees that are set up like in very specific areas, and then you just have these thousands and thousands of like lights. And so I was strongly considering like, what if I just have white lights and blue lights and just have that be kind of like and have that kind of like, it's sort of like working on last year's theme, which is sort of like that frosty sort of like motif. And I was like, no, it needs one, because if it's too bright, to be honest, like if a tree is too bright, it might actually be kind of like visually offensive. It's like, oh, okay, like, hey, look at that. It's like, and then you have to look like, because I've felt that before, like with people that just have like the just big blowout of just like lights, like, yeah, it's nice to look at for a second, and then you have to look like anywhere else, you know. But like, yeah, but you get like, that view. I was like, wow, I mean, that's impressive. Like for people who like do that, where like lights are the primary like ornament, like I have nothing against that, and it's just, and I know that there are some light packs I think now that come like with dimmers, or they come with like the settings to where they just kind of like they have like a soft sort of like glow dim sort of like thing. But I thought it was like, yeah, nah, this isn't right. I like the sort of like strong, my original idea, which was a strong contrast of green and red. I was going through like, because we like, like I have like, I mean, like I'm sure like a bunch like you like a lot of you have like your Christmas trunks, like the plastic DIY containers that you clamp. It's all plastic, but it clamps shut and like that. So I went through two of them, seeing if there was like something that I could use that also would sort of like work with this idea of like red and green. And I found something. I found something that I wasn't initially expecting to use, but and something that I hadn't used before. And to be honest, I don't even think my parents had done something like this before. But there was this big length of like ribbon, a red ribbon, that's sort of like that soft fake satin sort of like thing that you get like in craft stores and like that. But it was about good like 14 feet, maybe a little bit longer. But I thought to myself, like, like it's one of those things like you're like, maybe I can play with this just like a little bit. So I draped it like facing outward. I draped it like up down because I've seen trees like that, like that they have the ribbon and it's kind of just like from the very top of the tree and it comes down and it's like there's a bit of ribbon on every single side sort of like thing and in those cases it's kind of like just like you're wrapping the tree essentially, which to be honest, like, okay, like up down, if I had more, maybe I would have played more with that idea. But I didn't. I only had like the one strip. But sometimes, like, when I used to do geometric abstraction, you have to think like, well, where's the empty space could still be useful. But I can't do it vertically. Nor could I do it entirely like horizontally. I could, but with just like such like limited amount, because I looked through the rest of the trunk and I didn't have like any other of this particular like kind of ribbon. So what I did was I did it like to where like it's wide, but it conically it wrapped around, not particularly like tight or anything. But you have this like kind of candy cane-esque sort of like red stripe that goes around the tree about 3 times. And I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay. Because now, like not only that, okay, because it provides this kind of like a border, it like a 2-3 tier sort of like a border type thing. It's like, oh, okay. Now I can work with this. Because now I have areas and space to where I can plan out very specific like patterns of like ornaments and things like that. First, okay, so I know I have a better idea of what I'm doing. I have a better idea. However, I had to still like, okay, I had to remove it for the time being, and then I put the lights on. And I actually did get a new LED pack of lights. They're really compact. They're very light, and they actually come with a number of installed sort of like lighting patterns. To where they flicker quickly, or they have that like bright dim effect, or they they rotate on and off in different like bunches and things like that. And at first I tried that, you know, I tried that, but because they just have this light sort of like plastic filament in between, very similar to fiber optics. When they're on the tree and when they're lit, being LEDs, they're very, very bright. So, I mean, they have that to their advantage. But it looked like a web. You know, I think there's like it became very apparent that this particular type of lighting would really mostly work like if you're doing exterior, because like then I mean it doesn't matter if people can see, you know, like the connection or not. Or it's like, oh, okay, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed to where I wasn't able to use these sort of like this sort of like newer set, and they would have like worked very well. They wrapped around the tree very, very well. Used space particularly very good actually, because like I said, they're light, but there was like 36 feet of them, and on a 6-foot tree, there was light in abundance, but like I said, they looks web-like. Because the brightness of the bulbs in between just like this little plastic filament, you know, it illuminates the entire strip. Which, like I said, if you're using like an outside, sort of like if you're wrapping parts of your porch or furniture or wire, you know, like sort of like animals or things like that, that doesn't matter, you know, because I mean that's the point. It's supposed to completely illuminate whatever it's wrapped around. On the tree, though, because you can see like the lines connecting, it looked off, and so I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed. But hey, this is what I mean, if it's not broke, you know, don't fix it. So I still had my bundle of lights, and I wasn't able to have anyone like come over to like help me. Not this time around, not this year, but man. How many people does it take to light, you know, to put lights around a Christmas tree? I mean, you could do it with one, but like, oddly enough, it was harder than I thought it had any right to be. Mostly because while you're wrapping and untangling and just doing the lights, when you're just wrapping them around the tree and the branches, you either like top to bottom or bottom to sort of like top, you know, if I had one other person, it would be easier to sort of economize, to ration out the lights and see like, okay, so we have this much that we can use on like the base and the middle and the top. I think I did it like 5 times. No kidding. And it wasn't that it's just overly complicated. It's just that when it's just the one person, because you have to try to, like I said, like sort of in the moment, measure out, okay, like we're good for like the bottom and we're good around the middle, but if you use too much, then the top is it has no lights. So it just looks odd. It looks weird. So, you know, and there's no set like law for it. There's no set like rule. So you can just like start from like the top, like I got the end, start from the top, then work way like to the bottom. The way I did it like that, I don't know why, but there was so much empty space for the lights, like in the middle section. So the very top had a decent amount, the very bottom had a decent amount, but the middle, it was like empty. It looked a little like weird. So I tried it like, I think like 5 times to really sort of figure out what was like the best way to like do it. The way that I kind of like settled on is to like, the top is a little bit like lacking as far as like, you know, for the lights, but the body of the tree is fairly, you know, like it's fairly filled out with light. And of course, if you're using the old-fashioned type that has the green paint around like the plastic that connects bulb to bulb, you know, it's natural camouflage. So like I didn't have that problem that I had with the LEDs, to where, you know, it was so bright and it just looked like a cat's cradle, like plastic string, just sort of like lit up from place to place, and it just looked sort of like odd, a little off-putting. But of course, hey, with the green With the green wiring, you don't have that issue. In fact, it helps to fill in empty space, which is nice. So then I got as lights as good as they could possibly like be, because I wasn't going to drive myself crazy trying to just sort of like manage the lights on every square inch of this tree. I got my ribbon on, and so like I have a nice like foundation like now, and then I started working with the ornaments, and all of my ornaments are like they're bulbs, and I decided for something a little bit to break up the color just a little bit, even though like, which by the way, I use clear lights. I like clear lights because for whatever you have on as far as like your ornaments, or at least what I've used, I like the clear lights because they help illuminate that particular color spectrum, and it just looks a little bit like brighter. And to be honest, like even if it's even if you don't have the fanciest like ornaments, it does make it look a little bit more, it makes it look a little bit more sort of like, it gives a bit of an upgrade, like luminosity, if nothing else. So to add to this, I took the red, and I followed the ribbon to where it looks fairly orderly actually, and with the red bulbs. And so then I also added gold bulbs because I like red and gold, and it worked out fairly well. Like I'm actually fairly like pleased with the way it turns out. Why am I saying any of this? Because y'all, like, I mean, we tend to overcomplicate a lot of things with regards to like seasonal festivities and things like that. And I know in my heart of hearts that like this doesn't, it's only as important as you make it. I mean, like, even if I didn't have a tree, like the only reason I put up a tree is because I grew up with, like many of y'all, where this was a sign of this, like, this is just something that you do, and it's a fun project. And I will say, like, even though I probably gave way too much thought to it, like I overthought this whole process, I will still say it's fun. And it's fun, especially because like when it comes out a very specific way, the way that you like it, and to where like other people say, oh yeah, hey, did you follow like guides for it? Because there's hundreds, if not more, like guides like on YouTube. There's like different ways to do up your tree and like that, But this was just something that just like, it's a fun project. It's a fun project. I would always say this, like, just like, and try to keep it as such. I remember that like there are those times when you're growing up and you're doing this with like either your parents or your siblings, and everybody's creativity kind of like rubs up against each other, and sometimes like even though this is supposed to be a very pleasant sort of like project, it can become kind of like nerve-wracking and frustrating and aggravating, like many things in the season can be. But I think it was just sort of like, you embrace it as just like a fun project, and just see what you can come up with. And it's supposed to be fun, but I wasn't expecting it to just like, I wasn't expecting it to take this long. I just got this done last night. And this upcoming week is the week of Christmas. And just like it's crazy to me. Like, just, like I had intended to put this up like the very first week of December. It didn't work out that way. Sometimes our plans, they just don't go the way we plan. Go figure, right? But the conclusion came out, I would say, fairly well. The end result was actually like pretty darn good. Like I say. For a guy that's not particularly crafty or has a lot of sort of like know-how as far as like color patternings and like details and like that. But Movie Ninja, you said you did geometric abstraction. Yeah, and there's a reason you've never seen a geometric abstract tree. And if you do, you probably got it like in Italy or France or something, and it costs like 5,000 lira, or just like a ridiculous amount of euros to like, oh, okay. it's more of an art piece. It means Christmas, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like, oh, okay, So okay, to each their own, But it's like, but yeah. So I mean, like one set of like particular skills doesn't really like go into like the other for like seasonal decoration and like that. But but yeah, how are you guys doing with your holiday preparations? All that like anything related to the holidays, I feel like you should only put in as much energy as it is that it remains enjoyable. Because I think we deserve that for ourselves. Like the year is winding down. It's winding down. So I think we do ourselves a disservice if we get all worked up about like, oh, it has to be perfect. Yeah. I have to have my living room and my tree and my front lawn, and I have to look like a greeting card or something like that, and everything just has to be like too particular. Then, the holidays become something to dread, and that should never be the case. So I hope y'all's preparations, like if you observe the typical December seasonal festivities, I hope your preparations are going like well. Do you like what kind, like if you put up a tree, what kind of tree do you have up? Is it just like plain? Do you have what kind of ornaments do you have? Do you have ornaments that are multi-generational? Because I have a few ornaments that my parents gave me and that their parents gave them. I'll put them up in different places, but I won't put them on the tree because I always have this like fear that that I'm gonna be the one to blame for just like destroying these nice glass like ornaments, and so I don't, and I've explained this, like I don't know sometimes if my explanation is like actually like, if that works as far as like like, oh, I'm explaining things the way that I this is why I'm doing this a very specific way. I don't like the idea of me breaking heirlooms, so I just like I'm just very careful with those. But do you use heirloom ornaments? Do you what type of garland do you use? Do you use tinsel? I haven't used tinsel in like years, and to be honest, I think it was just like when I was a kid, like I went tinsel crazy, and so you just kind of like throw it like on everything and everywhere, and it just makes the tree look just all tinsel, like no matter what ornament arrangement like you have for it, it just kind of like it just takes over like silver kudzu or something. But it's like, but anyways, like what type of ornaments do y'all use? I hope that everybody's holidays are going as smoothly as they can be. I mean, like, y'all, we only have as much control, like we have a very limited amount of control like when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So no matter what, I just hope that y'all are having just like fun with like the season, So, but yeah, let me know like how your holiday preparations go. Like aside from, decorating a tree, are you doing anything else that's like, like what are some of your holiday traditions? Like do they revolve around like baking, or there very specific dishes that you like to prepare? Let me know in the comment section. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining me on Hello Again, episode 4, Oh Christmas Tree. Yeah, that was a decent title. So, but thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.